Hey, how's it going, network team? This is Brandon from Seven Eagle Group, and we have another episode of our Pay It Forward podcast, hosted by Seven Eagle Group. And I have the pleasure of speaking with Victoria Southall, U.S. Navy veteran, transitioning to information security manager and cybersecurity mentor. So thank you so much, Victoria, for being on with us today.
Thank you, Brandon. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here with Seven Eagle Group. Thank you.
I definitely, and so I would definitely want to kind of just jump right into it. A lot of times we do this podcast. A little background is for our transitioning service members and our veterans. Just good nuggets, information, tools to put in their toolkit, just for people who've already went through the process. Because there's nothing new under the sun. It's just talking to the right people who've done it already.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely agree. The transitioning period is very stressful for any branch. So I totally understand that there's too much information, and when you're trying to get out and get all your ducks in a row, it's so overwhelming.
It is, and as much as I think TAPS does a great job with kind of giving you a lot of information, sometimes I feel like it's kind of like a fire hose of information. It's just too much all at once.
It is. It's definitely that. And it's so quick. It's only a week. I know in the Navy you can go twice. But that's not enough. Like I wish I could have been able to have gone, 3, 4, 5 times. But sometimes service members don't really get the opportunity to really plan their getting out. It's just kind of like a last minute, or something happens with their rate and they kind of get pushed out. So it's really unfortunate that there's so much information there, and it's kind of hard to like hone in on exactly what you need. And I find that, career counselors at commands are doing the best that they can possibly do with these transitioning service members, but they've got service members coming in, they've got service members re-enlisting. Yeah. And so it seems like everyone just gets fire hosed.
Yeah. All from all aspects. And that's definitely a super great point that you mentioned there. But I want to jump into, I want to start from the beginning of, your Navy career, right? So I want to we ask this question all the time is, when you're around the campfire, whether you be deployed or, out on the ship and things of that nature, why did you join the service? We always find ourselves asking each other that question. So I'm asking.
So this is going to sound really silly, but I had a dream that I was in Navy boot camp and left boot camp and went on the ship. And I just woke up. I had graduated high school at 16. So I was 17 at the time. And I woke up and was like, that seems like it's kind of fun. Like, why not do that? So that was, I just told my parents one day, hey, I think I want to join the military. And they kind of laughed, said, hey, you don't really like to follow the rules and stuff. So I just went for it anyway. I said, I'm going to do it. This is what I want to do. So.
No, that's that. Mine was pretty darn similar, except for I didn't really tell my folks until I was probably 2 weeks out from going to basic training, and that turned into a big storm. But it was it was just there was something I needed to do that was different than what I was currently doing, and so that's my decision right there for that one.
Right. Yeah. That's what I wanted to do too. Was something different than what I was doing. So.
Okay. And so, is there anything, as far as your experience in the Navy, that you can pinpoint that was a memorable experience, or something that kind of really stuck out to you that maybe paved the way for you in your transitioning period?
I had sustained a lot of injuries, which sounds kind of silly because I was an IT in the Navy. So like what possibly could you get hurt doing computers and stuff with? But I used to actually build the big giant satellite dishes that you see kind of just out and about in some of front of the big buildings or on top of like big news buildings. I used to also build those as well for a weather command. And I got injured trying to build one of those. And it was really unfortunate. It was kind of a big catalyst to me, where I got hung up. I had orders to Italy, to a ship in Italy, and those got taken from me because of my back injury, which is totally understandable because I was not well at the time to be able to sustain being on a ship. And got put at a comms command, where I did IT communications, and assisted ships with their satellite communications and stuff, and did a lot with message traffic. And really the catalyst for that was really just kind of wanting to do something different. I felt like maybe the military had kind of run its course, but it was all I had known since I was 17 years old. I loved it. I loved my peer group. I loved my shipmates. I loved all the commands that I was at. I had really good leadership, and had the opportunity to serve in leadership roles myself. And felt like maybe it was just time to try something different, to get out and go to college. It wasn't something that I thought about, well, I'm only going to do, 4 or 5 years in and then get out. I had anticipated on doing the full 20, but with being hurt, I was kind of nervous as to how that was going to take me into the future, and say, well, am I going to miss out on more opportunities to travel overseas, or am I still going to be stuck stateside because I got hurt when I was a junior sailor? And I just kind of made the call that it was time to try something new.
I understand that. There's so many variables that go into play, like you just spoke about, to making that call. So, I know it's maybe a tough decision too as well. And was it Sigonella that you're going to in Italy?
It was Gaeta. Yeah. It was the
Gaeta.
USS Mount Whitney in Gaeta was where I had originally had orders to go to. And unfortunately, it was literally last minute. I was in a sea school for them and everything. So I was getting additional training to be able to go to that ship and support their IT and cybersecurity program. And just, I got caught up at medical.
Understood. I always say, it's supposed to be, will be, so you're at the right place at the right time, for whatever reason, to move your career. So, but thank you for sharing that. I want to ask you, so what was your transition out of service like? Is there anything that, you look back at and you was like, I wish I would have done this, or maybe this differently during your transition period?
I think I wish I had maybe asked more questions. But again, like you said, we're being fire hosed when it comes to making that decision of getting out. And the people that are in the military can't help you get out of the military. They only know how to stay in. They don't know how to get out. So I wish I had maybe asked more questions. I wish I had gone on social media to some of these veteran groups, that people who have transitioned. I didn't even know that there were things like that available. I didn't know that there were resources available for transitioning service members, on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, things of that nature, that will actually, like, where your community will rally around you and help you get out. And I wish I had that, and I wish I had known to kind of look for that. And back when I transitioned into the reserves, and out of the military active duty, that I had found some kind of mentorship or something like that. So that's really it. It was a lot to try and dig up myself, but once I had made the commitment to get out, I had maybe 6 months to really prepare myself. And I dove in with what I had, which unfortunately was all active duty information. So here's how you get out. Here's how you do your checkout sheet, all that good stuff. Here's your medical forms and stuff to get out. But the resources in TAP class weren't really great at the time. To my understanding, they're a lot better now. And their process is a lot better now. But back in 2014, it wasn't very strong.
Understood. Yeah, that's one thing I talk about a lot, even with the program called Skill Bridge. It's been around per se for that much time, 2014, 15, but not a lot of people heard about it.
No, and I didn't know about it, because that would have been an amazing opportunity. And I love seeing people take advantage of that and being able to get out and stay doing what they're doing because they did that Skill Bridge opportunity. I think that is just wonderful. And if anyone's getting out, I'm like, have you looked into Skill Bridge? Just, like, really, well, how do I do it? And, that's always the question. Well, how do I do it? Oh, I don't know.
It's because it is a lot of information, good information, but definitely there's people out there too, who help companies to get situated with Skill Bridge. So it is, like you alluded to as well. Like, definitely, I think finding the right person too to kind of help you out along the way, because there's people out there in our network that know how to do it. Yeah, definitely. And so I would ask you this too as well. So when you first got out, right? Okay, job seeking? Were you looking actively for roles for new positions, civilian positions when you first got out, or you took a break?
So I had terminal leave. I got 30 days of terminal leave in transition, which is less than what most people get, but I like to use my time off when I was in. I didn't like to stack it up. I wanted to use it, so I did. So transitioning, I was very careful to make sure I paced myself with 30 days. The first 2 weeks I took off. I went home. My family's in Tampa, Florida. I went home for 2 weeks. I didn't think about applying for jobs. I didn't try to do it. I had a
Mhm.
resume written up, just kind of like a halfly done, not really put so much effort into it from the couple times I went to TAP class. But I didn't really start trying to apply for jobs until after I needed a couple weeks to decompress, to realize what the hell just happened. What did I do? Am I sure? but
Mm.
but I had kind of a 1 foot in, 1 foot out with transitioning into the reserves. It was a seamless
Okay.
transition where I didn't have a gap in my service. It was just as soon as my active duty date ended, my reserve date started, and I was just waiting for orders and instructions as to what to do with the reserve. So I always knew in the back of my head that was coming.
Mhm.
And since ITs were kind of hot in the Navy at the time, and they might still be, but that's just I knew that I could always kind of fall back on the military
Mhm.
with my active reserve service. So
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing I think about too, because I know I chatted with you a little bit and told you, I'm still in the reserve as well. So like knowing that you kind of have that to that fallback, which I think we all should have something that we can, all our eggs can't be in one basket, right? Um,
absolutely.
and, and so I wanted to ask you, I think that's a great segue into, do you feel like your skills that you gained from the Navy were something that were transferable to the civilian space?
They were. I was really fortunate that when I first joined the Navy, I was kind of passionate about computers and kind of always had it in my mind that computers were the future. So I wanted to try and get a jump on that at 17 as early as possible. I just so happened to like it,
Mhm.
and it's never really felt like work. So I really enjoyed it in the Navy, and I got really lucky that pretty much everything that I did was transferable in some way, shape, or form into the civilian workforce. Some things I had to be a bit more creative
Okay.
when applying for jobs, that once I was in the interview, I could really speak to it and say, this is how it's relevant. But when someone's reviewing your resume in 10 minutes for a job, you don't really have that time to tell your story. And you just have to put down what's translated to make it relevant
Mhm.
in order to get the interview and then be able to shine there.
Exactly. And Victoria, you're hitting on so many great points, and it really does segue into like what we're kind of going forward with. So I wanted to ask too, the next question was from Victoria from 2014, who recently separated the military, to the Victoria now. What are some of the differences as far as now when you're seeking for jobs and also when you step into the interview? What are some things that you do differently from 2014 till now?
Well, I have almost 10 years more of experience now. So I'm definitely in a much more senior place. I was never stagnant in any of my roles, and I never saw kind of it going, well, this is it for me. This is as high as I can go. This is how I want to go. I always kind of I had a roadmap built out for me that I built out for myself when I transitioned and said, okay, here's a couple different things that I could do. I'm 22 years old. I'm going to be working for the next 40 years, hopefully not, but let's plan it out. Let's see what this looks like. And see where I want to end at 40 years when it comes time to truly hang it up and retire, or can I retire earlier?
Mhm.
And of course I want to. I want to retire at 40. So and just hang it up and be done. So what do I have to do to get to that point with my career? And that has really taken me to a different space and a frame of mind when it comes to interviewing, because I apply for jobs knowing that I'm going to go in and I'm going to kill it at that role. Of
Mhm.
course, with any new job comes, learning the environment, learning the people, learning, all your teammates and their style of work, your manager's style of managing and leading, as well as maybe a couple levels up in how their managers lead, because that will eventually affect you too. And being able to do my research when I'm applying for a job, I research the organization. I look at reviews of the organization, and I try to look for people who have worked in similar roles as me, or in what I know is going to be a similar department or division as me, and see what these people are saying. What are they saying about the benefits? What are they saying about the positives, the negatives, the leadership? Where the company's growing. I look at those statistics to see this is how the company has grown in the last 5-10 years, the types of business moves that they've made, and where they want to grow, what their mission is, how they want to get bigger, how they want to get better. Because if I'm gonna be their piece of the pie, they kind of have to be my piece as well. So there's a lot that goes into it that I didn't have that knowledge in 2014, getting out of the military. I didn't have that knowledge, that experience to know what to look for when I'm looking for a job, because it's not necessarily me trying to be the right fit for a company, but the company being the right fit for me is where I am now. And where do they fit in my 5, 10, 15-year plan? Not necessarily where do I fit in their plan? Because I'm applying for the job. So obviously I think I can fit into their plan, and I can go into that with confidence, where I didn't have that confidence getting out. I was just hoping to God they like me, that they'd think that I'd be good at the job, and that I'd be able to go in and actually do it, and, not use my dirty sailor mouth in the process.
No, Victoria, I'm telling you, you are dropping some gems here, and I can see the passion coming out from you too on that one. And I really like when you said, hey, the company, I'm evaluating you, too as well, because that is so important. And a lot of times when people think of, all right, I'm gonna do a little bit of job searching or researching on open positions, a lot of times they look at just positions, locations. Okay, this is where I want to be. What's the salary amount? Okay, let me hit apply. And they don't do that extra legwork to go deep dive into that company to see if, hey, this will be the right fit for you. Because a lot of times you'll walk into that interview and you're kind of wasting your time because there's something that you could have researched that would have told you maybe I shouldn't apply for that role.
Right. Absolutely. You get in there, next thing you know, they don't offer any PTO. They offer your standard 10 holidays. They don't have any, good mental health benefits, any good, health benefits and dental benefits for your families. And it's just kind of bare bones, like just what they need to be able to post these roles and support their people. And it's some people kind of, they have to apply. They can't necessarily take the time to do the research. They've got to get a job. They've got to feed their families. They've got to feed their kids. They've got to pay their bills and keep their lights on. So not everybody necessarily has the time to really do that deep dive into research. And that's again where I had kind of touched on those groups, those social media groups, where they call out all those things. Hey, if you're applying for a job, make sure you ask for a benefits package if the recruiter contacts you. Make sure that you're, as a veteran, you're looking for these particular things that are in a company. If you're moving to a new state when you get out, make sure you research those veteran benefits of those states, because every single state is different and will give you something. If I were to move to Connecticut, I would have a way different experience as a Navy veteran, or just as a veteran service member, than I would in Virginia, than I would in Florida or in California. And I think that that's not something that I knew when I got out either. I didn't know what the best state for a veteran to live in was. And there's a whole bunch of really good ones, and there's a whole bunch of really bad ones. So I can't say anyone is the best, but being able to do your research and just simply read through a few links with all 50 states and see what is best for you and what you want in your future, and how that lines up.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And the last question I have for you, honestly, Victoria, is, obviously what we do a lot of times, we try to advocate on the education piece. I think is very, very, very much needed when it comes to transitioning service members, veterans, and then companies out there that don't know about SkillBridge, right? So with our veterans, we ask, why would it be such a benefit for a company to look at or invest in a skill bridge program from your experience?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, companies do get tax benefits from hiring veterans. So that's certainly one benefit. If you start a skill bridge program and you hire these veterans, you're going to get a tax cut from it, just from like the business side of things. But from just like the ethical side of things, like you're helping somebody in the long run. Like you are helping someone transition. The environment and the culture of the military is completely different from that of the corporate world. And even with companies that are involved in DoD contracting, that's still a huge culture shock to veterans. It took me maybe 5 years to really feel like I had broken the habits that I had in the military, the mindset, the fear of questioning whether or not I was good enough to work in a corporate environment, to work in the civilian world. And so companies that are investing in the skill bridge program and helping these transitioning service members are helping them build that confidence to work in the civilian world, and to bridge that gap. They are the ones that would be bridging that gap between the military and the civilian world. So it's just a wonderful opportunity for them to really take advantage of on a whole different bunch of aspects. And also, you're going to find some really hardworking, good people in the military that have that grind it out mentality. The business is going to grow with these people.
100%. You mic drop. That's what I say on right there. But Victoria, thank you so much for spending some time with us here on this Friday for this Pay It Forward. And I want to give the mic to you. Is there any last words that you want to shout out to the audience, or any last tips that you have for the team?
There are a lot of resources, surprisingly, on Facebook, and there's a lot of resources as well in veteran groups on LinkedIn that I would highly recommend anyone transitioning to take a look at. I have a very active LinkedIn profile, where I will very happily respond to anybody that has any direct questions about transitioning and provide any resources. I am very passionate about being able to help people get out and immediately land on their feet, and be able to get in the civilian workforce if that's what they choose when they transition. So there's so many different ways that you can go. You can work, you can teach, you can go back to school. You could do the reservist thing if it makes you comfortable having that 1 foot in, 1 foot out like I did. But there are so many resources available on social media these days. And push your command. Push your command. If you are a transitioning service member, push them to accommodate you, to try and accommodate you to getting out, because they're obligated to do that to you. They're not obligated to drop the ball just because you said my EAOS is in 6 months. They still need to care about you. They still need to, they owe you that. So don't be afraid to push them.
Don't be afraid. That's my new quote.
That's right.
Let's get it. Well, hey, thank you so much again. We'll go ahead and wrap this one up. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you again, Victoria. And we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was nice speaking with you, Brandon.
You too.
Thank you.